This channel is supported by Truefire. Truefire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. Okay, I asked a question the other day about what people might want some kind of videos on, and the descending legato was a thing that came up. So I wanted to do a video today on that. Patreon will be the place to get the backing track, which I was improvising over, or am about to. And also, if I do a tab to accompany some parts of this, then that'll be the place for that. £2 a month is what you can spend, and you get access to all of my backing tracks, all of my jazz chord melodies. If you want to spend £3 a month instead, because you think it's worth more than that, you can do so. And if you want to spend £5 a month, you then get access to a monthly full transcription of like a whole improvised thing. Anyway, on with the video. I guess important to say that I think quite a lot of legato, there are some thoughts that it matters like a lot about setup and stuff like that, or compression. It's more about technique than any of that. So this guitar I think has 10s on it. It's obviously an ES335, not the most legato friendly guitar ever, so that's kind of why I've selected this guitar, to show that it's probably not too much about setup. So let's choose the key of rock, which is obviously E minor. I think the point is really that most, I think people, I speak from myself, I'm just going to assume that I'm something like you guys. The ascending legato thing is a little bit easier. So I think, first of all, worth saying that all of the great legato players eventually, I think, at least end up playing three-note per string stuff, right? So that's kind of an assumption that I'm going to be making, is that you're working towards that probably. And I think hammering on is the more easy side of stuff. Just one little tip for hammering on that I picked up from Tom Quayle and legato in general is to sort of aim for the same spot on your finger to be attacking the string. It's just one like little micro thing that you can aim for that helps you get a bit better at the macro thing, if that makes sense. So try to keep the same fleshy part of your finger attacking. And yeah, I would start off, that is exactly how I started off, just running through the major scale shapes. You could think of them as modes if you want to, but for me, I kind of just think about it as G major all over the neck. Now, the thing is that can be quite momentum based, and that's the nice thing about hammer-ons, is that you kind of get, yeah, like this sort of feeling of momentum as you're playing them. Now, the pull-off thing is what I'm really thinking about here, though, more so descent. So what I would first of all try to do, something fairly simple, and instead of 3 note per string starting off with this descending stuff, just try and get something like the E minor pentatonic. So what we're doing is completely removing this idea of momentum, because there's actually not really the same way to generate momentum descending, is what I kind of think of this as. So you want to be able to... This was a mistake that I used to make as a kid, was like thinking that if you picked hard on the first note, like the resulting pull-offs would kind of work better. Actually, the reverse is kind of true. If you pick lighter, you could actually get a bit more of an even attack. So when I think of the pull-off thing, then what I'm thinking of is actually not anything to do with this direction. It's this direction. So you want to kind of load up a bit of tension in the finger that you're pulling off from, and then you're striking away. Now, another thing you can do is, if you're trying to get to like turbo legato status, or status if you're English, is try to hammer on at the same time. So there is this approach which is called like hammers only, where you're kind of just attacking with hammers, but you can kind of combine that with a little bit of a sideways pull off. So what I would do is, as I say, just pick lightly the first note and try pulling off down your pentatonic scale. No momentum. And maybe take that into the other shapes. See what's happening? I'm loading up the finger that I'm playing the note on, and then sort of striking across the top of the string. And then, once you kind of got that, I think you might be slightly better positioned to start doing the 3 note per string stuff. So I'd maybe try as well doing it like between each finger. So like that's clearly a weakness here. So in this case, I'm going between my ring and pinky finger. So pinky, so give yourself little exercises like that. And then maybe between your ring and middle. Maybe even do like little modified pentatonic shapes. Like that's really tricky stuff. And then maybe between your Okay, and then I did just want to interject here because I did ask my buddy DavidBeebee if he had any sort of like quick legato tips. He's a guy who developed like a really clean legato technique a little bit later on in life, which is useful to know. Don't pull off with the hand or the wrist. Isolate the movement to the finger joints, especially when training the pinky. And then he also said the best one though is probably pull off into a hammer-on, like I was talking about there, so you're not holding the note down prior. So again, that's kind of like the Sutcliffe hammers only approach. Go check out BB's latest video if you want some more tips on this. What I would suggest is then move on to your sort of 3-note per string stuff. And really focus on just descending in and of itself. It is kind of a subtly different technique. Use this as like a warm-up, higher up. And kind of think about playing with less tension. And I also really like to try this sort of thing. These are Allan Holdsworth things from the tune Downside Up. So that little phrase, mixing up hammer-ons and pull-off. So in that case, you're starting with a hammer-on. So you start in the middle of your 3-note per string thing. Pull off. Hammer-on. Pull off. So that's where I would sort of focus a bunch of attention. So first of all, starting with the smaller sort of 2-note per string activity to sort of get the feeling of like a smooth, controlled pull off, as they're called. Think about the direction of travel being down this way. Your thumb is going to be, you know, somewhat neutral in the middle of the neck, not like this. It needs to be here, roughly. And then also think about spending more time focusing on what feels less natural to you. There shouldn't be tons of tension in your hand, but to load up that pull off, you do need an amount. Again, it's not necessarily all about compression or loads of gain. Like, you can get these sounds on an acoustic guitar. If you're quite controlled about it. You could try practicing with just left hand only to really see if you can get some, you know, stuff happening here. But yeah, I'll put up a few like little exercises around this, but I think descending legato is, once you get the hang of the descent, it all feels a little bit more natural, is what I would say. And it took me years and years and years for this to start to fall into place. If I'd had a teacher who had early on said, well, it's actually not about pulling up, it's all about pulling sideways, I think I'd have been off to a better start. Thank you for stopping by. Patreon for the backing track and also for the accompanying sheet to go with this. And I'll catch you in another video soon. Cheers.